Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Comics and Sweet Tea. Uh, just a quick shout out, you guys. I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to all the old subscribers. You guys are amazing. Continue to spread the word about the channel. It continues growing, and that's because of each and every one of you. And I can't say how much it means to me properly to you guys, but thank you so much. Just a quick bit of news, shipping has started for the latest chapter of End of Days. So if you were a part of that Kickstarter, hey, be watching your mailbox. You'll be getting all those goodies here in just a couple of days. Um, Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in today's guest. Awesome individual. We've been friends on social media for a good while, supported each other. Uh, Mr. Peter Howarth, and he'll be talking about his book, First Person Revocation. So, without further ado, let me get Peter in here and he can tell you all about it.
Hi, thanks very much for having me on your channel, and Jerry. Really appreciate it. I've been a follower since it was in its early days, and it's good to see that it's growing month by month. I think as a group of sort of independent creators, kind of individually we're quite small, but together we kind of make up a decent body of sort of individuals and contacts and knowledge. And I think it's as a community, and we grow the community.
Exactly. And I love this community, Peter. I remember the first time I actually got to speak with you. It's been a good while back, and you actually give me that video call and told me how much you enjoyed what I was doing. And I mean that I man, I got off of that call and tears were in my eyes. To realize that your work, you kind of feel like you live on an island sometimes when you're an independent creator. And when somebody reaches out like that, I mean, it means the world to know that something you created has had an impact on somebody. It's just
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's talking to other people out there who what you're doing is resonating with, and it kind of means something to. I think is kind of really important, and particularly as well if you're doing a lot of sort of solo creating, because it's not like you're working as part of a team. Say if you've got like you're doing the writing, but you've got an artist on board, and you've got a colour on board, and you've got a letterer on board. You've kind of got a kind of little self-supporting team if it's all working well. But if you're doing a lot of the stuff yourself, which for this couple of projects I have been doing, then it can be a bit isolated. I agree.
Right. And it's good to have this community. I've met so many wonderful people, through my projects, through Instagram, posting my projects like yourself, and so many more, that have they've helped me push through, in those times where I was, kind of up against the wall with the story, and it gave me that much fuel to persevere on through and make it happen, and people don't realize just how much that means to a creator. But let's talk about your story, Peter.
Okay.
Let's jump into first person revocation and kind of where did talk about the birth of this idea, where it
Okay.
come from.
It's a bit crazy. So at the back of our house, we've got a communal garden, and so I was. It's one of those things, when you're doing a kind of a fairly. So I was cutting the grass and trimming it. It's 3 acres, so it's a decent size. And as I'm sort of doing that, my mind's kind of, coming up with all sorts of ideas. And we had an elderly neighbour, and he had over here they have what they call home help. So it's kind of social workers who do, or people who come in and do social stuff and jobs in the house for the person who's very old who can't do them. And I was kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking about what if like someone didn't just come in, but they were and do something, but they actually were at a point where they were able to give that person a kind of a couple of hours of a new life, because they actually switch bodies. So someone who's old or sick or infirm in some way, and they could trade off a bit of their time and actually be resident in someone else's body. So it's kind of set to a couple of hundred years in the future. It's set on the west coast of the USA, and it's about a number of characters who, through the various activities with intercorporeal shift technology, which is what I've called this kind of ability to switch bodies, or switch consciousness between bodies. They become aware of a serial killer who's using the technology to kind of extend this kind of activity. So he is an individual who's the antagonist in the story. Is kind of aging out. He's too old to physically do what he wants to do, but he still wants to do it. And through their different activities, the characters become aware of the existence of this individual, and so it's the challenges they face and the impact it has on their lives as they kind of seek to bring into justice. And that's the kind of big story, if you like. So science has discovered how consciousness inhabits the brain and the means of temporary switching it, which is this ICS, intercorporeal shift. And it's used initially, it seems like a great discovery, and it's used in sort of mental health therapeutics and relationship enhancement in the wider population. But over a period of a few years, there's increasing amounts of what I've called psi leakage. So it's kind of retention of a person's partner's consciousness within that individual's brain, and repeated episodes of that lead to psychoses. So as a consequence, ICS is made illegal, and we've got like companies, sci-tech companies, which are looking for a prophylaxis. So they're looking for a means of kind of safeguarding against this, so that the technology can be used again. So it's made illegal in the general population, and the research is much more restricted. So it's restricted to illicit users who've come into the penal system. And volume 1 is about a couple of individuals, Evangelina Good and Michael Ruiz, and they're mielitas, which is a kind of a slang term for sex workers, and they work for the Eros Agency. So they're kind of bio-enhanced individuals who will go out and they will kind of allow other people to use their bodies for sex. So I've got to say that some of the kind of content is obviously there's drug taking in it, there's violence, etc. But it's not actually graphic in terms of being depicted as that. So it's there's not like there's no nudity or anything like that, but it does cover those sort of kind of topics. It's a bit similar to maybe Altered Carbon is probably the nearest thing I'd say that's similar to it. So these two individuals, they're working for the Eros Agency, and after a period of time of switching with sick and or old people, it's starting to wear on them a bit. And Michael Ruiz, the partner of Angelina Good, he comes up with a kind of freelance job, and unfortunately they don't know this, but this is this guy Zemel, who's now looking to kind of use ICS to extend his the scale of his activity. So what he does is he will they'll kind of get involved with him, and it's how that all works out, and the kind of negative outcomes that there are from that, and that's the sort of first introduction to that. And then as well during the novel, we see a researcher who is going to come in volume 2, and will, through their contact with Zemel, she'll then become aware of him, and it'll be then following through until they can bring him to justice. So yeah, it's quite a big story. Well, it's a lot bigger story than I initially planned, because I was initially going to do volume 1 just as a very short introduction, and it ended up being 68 pages, which is maybe not good planning on my part, but there was enough story in it to kind of give it a full volume of its own.
Right. Well, I tell you, Peter, it sounds absolutely amazing as a bit of science fiction. And I tell you, talking about the technology and stuff, where we're at, in today's world, this could actually become science reality possibly in the next 20 to 30 years, if not sooner, with the way they're going with things. So this could hit pretty close to home.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that one of the criticisms that there is of speculative science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction generally, is that it's about a lot of stuff. So if it's science fiction, then it's about kind of AI or spaceships or aliens or whatever. But it's actually, when you think about it, it's not really about that. It's about the human condition that's juxtaposed against all those kind of alien landscapes or unusual technologies. So like the stories about loyalty, sacrifice, conscience, despair, and love, and it's still all those things, even though it's speculative fiction. And I think literary fiction sometimes kind of looks down its nose a bit at speculative fiction, but it's the human condition still, and we kind of see that. And one of the things that made it, that kind of pushed it out to being 68 pages, was trying to make sure that the characters were kind of acting in a coherent manner. So I set the characters up in a certain way, and then didn't want them to act out of character just to drive the plot, if you know what I mean. So the plot kind of spread a little bit, but yeah, it was enjoyable getting it down, and I wanted it finished before I went to Kickstarter, because I was a bit concerned that I wouldn't want to go to Kickstarter and then be struggling to finish it. So it is all done, and as I say, I'll go in at the end of September. I think running it through October will be a good time. I think the summer's a bit of a dodgy time for putting things on, well, selling anything really, but anything online. But Kickstarter, a lot of people on holidays in August, and not as focused.
Right. I tell you, I want to say I did my first one in October, and I haven't done one in October since, but I know people that have. I think it's a good date, end of September through October. Now, I tell you what, I don't have to tell you this. November and December, you want to stay away from Kickstarter. I know people that have done it,
yeah,
but it's a struggle. And I've heard there's talk, about Kickstarter in general right now, with a lot of the publishers and things like that kind of swarming to Kickstarter to do books before actually releasing them to the public. And there's a lot of discord about that, and a lot, here's where I'm at. These people were, a lot of these artists and stuff that are going to Kickstarter, hey, they were independent creators before they got hired by these companies, and they got a following. So I'm not going to hate on them, because they were just like me at one time. It's not their fault. People like their stuff, and they follow them from the publisher to Kickstarter. So more power to them, for trying to bring in more finances for their work. I completely understand that, trying to get out the middleman, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that with Kickstarter, along with a lot of social media platforms, it's just getting really, really crowded now, though there's an awful lot of things on there. I mean, I've seen some quite good Kickstarters that look good in terms of what I can see of them, that kind of didn't fund, and it seems it's almost like you've got to be a marketer now as a kind of creator.
Right. Right.
understand. It's really interesting. I mean, one of the things because the only real the social media that I concentrated most on was Instagram. So, and I've been on that for about 4 years now, and I kind of posted stuff onto that regularly. In fact, at one point I did 13 months posting every day because I did Inktober through to the end of the next Inktober. And I posted every day on there. And I just think the last maybe 6 to 8 months, it's kind of really gone downhill. I think it was failing before. And it's interesting. I was looking at because people who I follow or who follow me are kind of just kind of gradually over a period of time been messaging to see if they want to sign up to the mail shots, the 1 month of mail shot that I'm putting out. And I'm offering the 2 free comics as a kind of thank you for doing that. And I tell you, Jared, it is weird the number of accounts that I'm coming across now where I'd say since 22, 23, people just haven't posted anything. And it's like the live accounts, they're not taken down, and yet they're kind of not active. And some of them,
right,
if you message people, they'll reply, so they're still on them, but some others are just like dead accounts. And when,
well, during COVID, it was a different time. And I mean, a lot of people were on the internet. They were on social media because that was the only thing to do because we were all locked down. Yeah. And a lot of people have kind of, it was flash in the pan type things. And they were like, oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm creating this. And then they did their one shot and they were gone, and COVID died down. Everything opened back up and they had followed their dream. They got that one project out of their system and they went on their merry way back to their normal lives, where people like you and I have stayed true to it, and we kept pushing because it's just like anything else. I mean, it's a job, it's work. A lot of people, when they first get into this thing, they don't realize the amount of work that's actually involved in it. How many different hats that you actually have to wear. You have to self-market. You mentioned you do all your lettering, your writing, your colors, your line work. Then you have to deal with the printer, and that's a whole nother story. I mean, it's a job all in itself. And a lot of people are like, well, I didn't sign up for all this, and they don't have the fortitude or the heart to keep it going because it's not that important to them.
I mean, I agree. I think, as you say, the thing that struck me is just kind of like being back at work, because you've got to be well organized. You've got to do certain things each day. I think in terms of the creativity, it's like people who are creative are just kind of creative. It's like they couldn't not be creative, but whether you then put in all the extra to kind of get a finished product that's where I think that's where the difference is. I think, as I say, it's really interesting with, and obviously there's a lot of competitive platforms now, but definitely social media, I think, has. There's just been some like unusual stuff. It's kind of deteriorating. I do feel. I mean, it's like the last, I would say, 6 months. I've had they're not people, but the bots follow me. They're clearly bots because they're using use the same photo that other ones have used. And obviously, I block them and report them, but that never happened. I'm talking like over 4 years of being on it, and it's just started happening in the last 6 months. So there's definitely a switch. I mean, I kind of I'm not sure. And it also, I think it's almost like they wanted to become a bit of a job in itself. So you got to kind of work out what the algorithm is and how to chase the algorithm. And you get to the point where you think, do you know what? I'll post what I'm doing and I'll kind of try and do my own thing, but I'm not like chasing around your particular hamster wheel to, do the Instagram thing or whichever one it is.
And that's what they try to make it. a lot of times. I feel, Peter. I mean, they try to make it like a hamster wheel. I used to chase the algorithm, and now, I mean, people gravitate to stuff they like.
Yeah.
I've said this many times before, and I'll say it many more times. People can smell bullshit a mile away. I mean, they if it's something that resonates with them, they can see the passion in the project, and if it catches their eye, they're going to gravitate towards it. And you do the work and you put it out there, and you'll find your audience. I honestly feel that. Uh, I, I'll die on that hill. That So I think you're absolutely right. Can't you can't jump through hoops for these social media things. Just do your thing, and people will find you. Period.
Yeah, I agree. But I do. I mean, you expect them to be like a synergy where you're kind of, yes, you put the work in and you get something out of it, but it is like a fine balance. And I think it's tipping more the other way now. And you see some of the things that people are recommending where they're suggesting kind of setting up channels which are just for the sake of potentially generating revenue and generating like a lot of followers, and you think like, well, what's the point if I'm not actually doing what I want to do anyway? And I mean, as you say, you're going to do the thing you're going to do that you're interested in, and if it's like you have a few followers or more followers or whatever, you have the people who are also interested in it, and kind of that's it really. But yeah, it's interesting kind of working through that, but it's, as you said, you need a much bigger skill set than I would have thought you needed at the start, and it's kind of learn as you go along. And it's like anything, the first time you do something, it's like really tough, and then as you go along and you go through things, you do it a couple more times, and it gets a bit better, and then you kind of get a bit more savvy with it. I mean, some of the video editing stuff that's out there now that you can get for free is really good, and I've just been having a play around with that, and and kind of did the first video, because obviously you've got to put a video on when you put it onto a Kickstarter. So I've been having a go at that, and it's what I mean, when I get going, I will, and if this kind of sets off and does okay, then I will kind of. There'll be things where I'll hire people to do them, but I want to be able to do them myself first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to be able to do all of it. I mean, I can't lie either. I'm a control freak. This is my baby, and I don't want anybody else touching my baby. I mean, it's tough. I collaborated with Matt Martin on the Ballad of the Damned, and that, I was scared at first, but Matt had done a cover for me and done some prints, and he really, I mean, I could tell the love he had for my world and what I was trying to do, and I just let my guard down. I started sending him pages, and we would go back and forth on that, and it was just such a great process, so, and I learned a lot from that. But first of all, like I said before, this is my baby, so I completely understand you don't want anybody else touching your baby just yet.
I mean, I think that if you can get someone who's on this more or less on the same page with you in terms of what you're aiming for and what your vision is, I think that's great.
Right.
But if you don't, and I've seen people who try and work with people who probably are quite divergent in the views they have on the project, and it does get really tricky, or it can get really tricky. So I think ideally, if you find like a person or a couple of people who you can work with and who are
kindred spirits.
Then I think that is probably the ideal situation. But I think it's like with doing something, it's always I always enjoy. I like learning new things anyway, and I think that if you learn, like if I hadn't done videos before, so I'm just kind of picking my way through video editing tech now, and and it's just like, as I understand it and understand how to do it, and it's only at a basic level yet, and like with animation, which I just had a little go at doing, it's like if I hire someone else to do it, I know if they're doing a good job or a not so good job, and I know, if I know kind of, because I know how to do it, even to a rudimentary level, I can assess kind of the person that I'm dealing with. So, but the AI stuff is crazy now with this sort of things that they're pushing it for.
Definitely.
I mean, there was one. I was looking at one guy on YouTube, and he was basically doing a whole comic, and he had like various AI. It wasn't just one AI thing. Because one of the things that I think they always struggle with is, like, you can say, put this prompt in, and it'll give a character. Then you put the same prompt in for doing something different, the character doesn't look the same, so you don't have the character who can go through sequential panels.
Right.
But on one of them now, on Midjourney, they've got this thing where your character gets a code, and then you put the code in, and it will keep the same appearance, in effect, doing it. And you think, shit, that is like, that's
scary.
Good. Yeah,
that's scary. That's what we had touched on that a little bit in my episode we did of first episode of League of Extraordinary Creators. Yeah. And, I mentioned that, this thing's learning, and that's the scary part. The more, this is the infant stages, and it's already doing what it's doing. And it's only going to, computers only get smarter the more data you feed into them, and they can learn at such a rapid rate. Yeah. It's just, I said that it's just a matter of time before they'll be able to do sequential art. And then at that point, all bets are off.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's really interesting. So they put it in, they got the character, they got a code for the character, and then obviously they can put that code in the next prompt, and it's the same character doing it, which I've never seen before. I think the only thing where it gets very kind of time consuming is where, say, you've got several characters, and you got, like, each one has got to have its own code. And the other thing, I saw that this guy did this example, but he's doing Batman, and that was obviously Batman's Batman. But the Batmobile looked completely different vehicle in every panel, and you think, yeah, that didn't quite work, did it? That was changed every time.
Right.
But
go ahead, Peter.
The thing that struck me was, obviously, because they didn't even write it. They didn't even write a story. They asked Chat GPT to write the story. And the story was like stupid. It didn't really, like, it was so basic. But it's, as you say, it's beginning stages now, and it will evolve to becoming more and more kind of have more depth to it. I think the only thing, Jerry, where it might fall down, where it's going to slow down, is there's that much, in terms of art at least, there's that much AI generated art now that it's starting to sample, AI is starting to sample AI generated art. And I think that's why you see some of the things that you think it will put right, like how many fingers does a human hand have, or like, hands back to front or whatever. That's why those aren't, you still see them quite commonly, they're not being corrected. And it's almost like a kind of digital version of mad cow disease, where they fed like herbivores, the protein from other herbivores. So like it was scraping in sheep, wasn't it? They got into the cows. It's almost like it's going to be a digital version of that, because it's AI is like now scraping from AI, or a lot of AI, and I don't know. It'll be interesting where it ends up, but
it will definitely.
Yeah, it's but I used just to sort of the video I was doing, because I wanted a character speaking, Evangelina. I wanted her can doing a voiceover. So I will get a voiceover artist, but because I was kind of wanting to do everything a bit quicker, I went on one of these AI generated voice sites. I've got to say, it's actually pretty good. Because you can, when you go into the advanced settings, you can fiddle around with the tone and
the accent.
it was really good voice in the end. It wasn't like one of these robotic voices. It actually did really well. I was surprised. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It's who knows where it's going, but it is a bit worrying. You know what the future is going to be, Jerry? All the humans are going to do all the kind of bog standard kind of menial tasks, and the computers are going to do all the poetry and art.
I hope I don't live to see that day, Peter.
Yeah,
I really do, because I mean, it's like I've said multiple times. I mean, art is how we express ourselves. That's how we get our fears out. That's how we get our joys out. You know, whether it be in painting or sketching,
yeah,
music, singing. I mean, we express ourselves through art, and if you take that away from us, what do we have left? How do we express ourselves? You
yeah.
know?
I do think it AI will take away a lot of the kind of lowercase creativity work. Like there's someone that I know who did or works on doing like greetings cards. So particularly around Christmas, or before Christmas, and run up to Christmas, they get quite busy because they're doing like various Christmas card designs. I mean, AI could just like easily go through that. You know, it's going to soon learn what is on a Christmas card, and it can churn out dozens in a minute. I think that level, that's going to be affected. I think what AI will never be able to do is uppercase creativity, where you're doing something where it's kind of, it doesn't have that level of imagination. No, it doesn't have any imagination. It doesn't have the imagination to be able to pull together, say, different strands to make a unique story. So it can always paraphrase stories that have existed, but never come up with a new story. And same with art as well. So there is hope. There is hope, but
We'll see. Time will tell, my friend.
Yeah.
For definite. And let me take a break out of everything real quick. You guys, we're taping this thing at a different time, but when you watch this, jump down in the description. I'm going to have the link to Peter's IG page, where you'll be able to get in touch with him most predominantly, and also we will have a link to his email where you need to get in here to get his page, his letter page that he's going to be sending out. Sign up for that so he can contact you when he goes to Kickstarter with this project, where you can stay in touch with Peter, follow his work. I'm telling you, I'm a part of it. He posts regularly. He's extremely consistent, and he keeps you in the loop, you guys. So you're really going to enjoy that. So do sign up, and do follow him on Instagram, because he posts regularly. And I love to see what the people I follow do. I like to keep a check on them. I like to keep in touch with them. And I'm sure you do too. So be a part of that, you guys. Jump down there, get on everything, and support Peter in this project, because he's told you all about it. The one thing that really struck me, altered carbon. You brought that up, and I hate that they haven't done another part of that. I enjoyed that show so much, because I could see us getting there. That's where we're headed. Immortality. They're digital immortality. That's where science is going, I think.
Yeah, it's. I mean, within the story, because obviously the kind of the sort of background to that is obviously consciousness and what consciousness is, and it kind of I did look at different theories of it as I was kind of as writing it originally. So it's sort of like touching on it as in terms of panpsychism, where consciousness is kind of pervades the universe, and it's kind of the way our brains are neurochemically attuned that kind of catches that consciousness. So it's a bit like a sort of wind, and then the brain is a sort of wind chime, and then if you get all the different things in it, then the chime, so it's kind of a resonance of consciousness in it. That's the mechanism by which they're able to kind of switch consciousness, and I kind of go into that in the novel. But yeah, the Altered Carbon, I really enjoyed season 1. I think the problem was because of they took all the main characters out and put a new set of characters in.
Right.
I think that's why season 2 struggled, and also I believe it wasn't the same author. So I think it was written for television season 2, so it really didn't do well. So they're kind of not going to do a season 3. But yeah, when you mentioned the people signed up as well, so the subscription, obviously people can unsubscribe anytime. It's a monthly kind of mail shot, and I put in some general stuff like we've been discussing AI in it, and recently we've been discussing I did kind of warp versus anti-warp recently. Then there was something about the Kickstarter or the novel. I always try and highlight someone else's Kickstarter because it's always good to kind of spread the word of something that I've enjoyed that someone else has done. And then I'll put in a link to either a short story, or I've done a couple of graphic novel shorts that I link to as well. So they're in there. And as a thank you, Jerry, to people who do subscribe, they get an Eros, which is an origin story for Evangelina, who's the protagonist in volume 1, and then there's another one called Death's Children. So I got this kind of the bad guy has got a group of killers who he's kind of hired, and they're kind of a cult, if you like, who are a kind of cross between the assassins and the Cathars, and so they're that's kind of showing a bit of background to them. So it's 36 pages in total, 116, 120 pages, and those are like free digital copies for anyone as a thank you for signing up. So yeah,
there you go, folks. Look at all the value you get from this. So sign up today. I'm telling you, I'm signed up, and it's a lot of interesting stuff that Peter packs into his mailing list. So be sure and jump on that. Real quick, you said 68 pages, volume 1?
Yeah,
that's correct.
It's crazy. Yeah, I didn't think it was that much.
68 pages. So, guys, September.
End of September. Yeah, end of September. Yeah.
End of September, early October.
Yeah, I'll do it for running through October. What I'm probably going to do is I'll do it for October. I can do it October this year, and then as I'm kind of putting those out each day, I'll put the link and also a link out to the Kickstarter and do it. So it's kind of one hopefully supports the other, because I like doing it in October, but I didn't do it last year because I was struggling with time. But yeah, I kind of enjoy doing that as well.
So you said you had already started on volume 2.
Yeah, I have.
I know you don't. You're letting the story come to you organically. Have you pinned down kind of how long that volume will be?
It's easily going to be as long as that. So that's going to be probably a similar sort of length. Because there's quite a lot of story to go through. So definitely, that's probably another around 60 pages. I kind of know how the story is going because I did way back. I did a couple of writing courses, and I actually wrote a lot of it in terms of actually writing it like a short story. So I kind of know what the plot is and the characters in it, but obviously, because I enjoyed drawing, I decided I would do it as a graphic novel. So that's when I started kind of doing the artwork to go with it, and doing it in that kind of different format. So it's all kind of evolved a little bit organically, but I think a couple of years ago I probably wasn't ready for putting it out. So it's taken that period of time to actually work through and kind of get the art style the way I wanted it, and kind of bring the kind of decent character development into that kind of graphic novel presentation. So it kind of took the length of time that it took. But it's been interesting along the way and learned a lot of new stuff. So it's never a bad thing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Now, first person, is it going to be you have a ending planned, or is
Oh
this
yeah.
ongoing, or
Oh no,
how many volumes are you looking at possibly?
It'll wrap up after 3 volumes, and I know exactly how it'll end. It'll be there is a sort of major transformation to the character involved as they bring the serial killer to justice. So they will bring the serial killer to justice, and it will involve a major transformation for them. So in volume 1, I've got Evangelina Good, who's I said this meal eater, this sex worker, and she's the protagonist, but she then becomes a supporting character, such as in the later volumes. But the supporting character in volume 1 is will take over the reign of being the protagonist in the final 2 volumes. So yeah, it's a bigger story than I kind of envisaged it when I was cutting the grass a few years ago.
It's amazing how these ideas come to us, isn't it?
You know what, Jerry? That was a really good question, though, because no one ever asked that. They never ask, like, so what's the source or the inspiration of that story? And it's always interesting to think, well, how did you actually originate it or come by that idea? Because it may be that you've just seen something that was similar, but it may be that it's something that's like totally literally just like grew out of nothing kind of thing.
Right.
And it's fascinating.
It really is. Well, Peter, I tell you what, man, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I don't want to take up your whole day. It looks lovely. I'm looking through the window there. It looks like there's a beautiful
I know
day.
it's sunny. It's sunny. With one of the few days we've got some sunshine.
Right. Well, Peter, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you as always. Best of luck with this project, and I'll be jumping on board as soon as this thing hits Kickstarter. And hey, once you get your Kickstarter link up, for people to sign up to, please DM me that where I can share it. And I'm gonna push this thing 180% every chance I get. So best of luck, my friend. And hey, you guys, be sure jump down in that description one more time. I made it easy for you. I got links. All you got to do is hit these links, jump over there, jump on the mailing list. Hey, join Peter's community. Be a part of what he's doing. He's doing the Lord's work, you guys. He's bringing this creation to life. So be sure and jump on this thing. Give him your support. And hey, you won't regret it. That's the show. Thank you, guys. Be with us again next week.
Thanks very much, Joe. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It was my pleasure.